Hey guys, welcome back. It's Dion here at PhotoBeast. Today I wanted to do something fun and exciting. Since the 200 to 800 just came out and I don't have it, I wanted to do something with something that I already have. On today's platform, you guys can't see it, but right down here, we have the original 800 f11. We have the Sig Monster 150 to 600 Contemporary. I've had this lens for many years and it has served me well. Good old EF version 2, 100 to 400. This lens is super sharp and it is freaking amazing. Over here we have the good old trusty EF. This is the 70 to 200 f2.8. This guy is another super sharp lens. I use this thing a lot. Over here we have the RF 100 to 500. So if you look at this lens, it also has a different mount. This is from SHOOTOUT, and as you can see, this mount is phenomenal because not only does it connect to your strap, but it also connects to the tripod. This is how all the companies should make their mounts, especially Canon, Nikon, and Sony. Why they still go with these old, stupid mounts, I don't understand, but this is not a video about mounts. It's a video about sharpness and speed, quality of lenses. Nothing is sponsored, nothing is basically given to me. Everything is paid for out of my pockets. Now, oh, a ladybug. We have the Sigma 1.4, as well as the Sigma lens with the Sigma dock, which I have in the house. And then I have the Canon 2x version 2 extender, not the version 3, but the version 2. And I forgot one lens, and that is the 500 f4 that I just wrapped in gauze tape that cost about 99 cents. So if you want to camo your lenses for very cheap, use gauze. The gauze wrapping works great. It stops the scratches just like the $100 wrappings. And the cool thing about this is throughout the year, you can take it off. You can go from the green camo to the beige or to the browns. You don't really lose any money, and you can actually save this stuff and rewrap it up. Oh, there's my nut hatches. Moving on, if you guys look behind me, you guys can see we have a couple little birds. And the reason why I have a black and a white is to show exposure compensation. We have our lenses, we have our teleconverters, and we also have everything we need. We're going to shoot everything on the Canon R5 because the Canon R5 gives us 45 million megapixels. So for the purposes of this demonstration, just to be pretty quick and precise with everything, I have a tripod here. We could tripod, we could get the best light, we could do this and that, but let's be realistic. When you're doing wildlife photography, the majority of the time, if you live in places like I live in North Carolina, you're going to get crappy light this time of the year. So with crappy light, handheld conditions, and cold weather, in the meantime, I'm tripping over a piece of snake here. So let's go ahead and handhold. I'm going to shoot 1/500th of a second at f4. Let's go ahead and look at what we have here. The first one, we have the brown bear. Handheld. One of those. Now we have the 3 heads. 1, 2, 3. Now, with image stabilization turned on, this thing is very hand holdable. Now I'm going to stop this up. Actually, let's just do a 5/6. And let's see where we're at here. So we're going to go, here's our bear. This is 640 shutter, backlit. While I'm doing EF, let's stick with all EF. The next shots we're going to use is the 70 to 200 at f2.8. Now you might say, you know what? This is going to come up short, and it will, but I'm going to have to walk closer. We're just looking at sharpness. Guys, we're going to take a brief pause. I'm going to pack all this up and meet y'all in Lightroom. So now we're recording. Let's open up Lightroom. Inside of Lightroom, we see some pictures of, up here, if I go to library, this is the whole haul of everything. So as we remember, the first couple pictures, they were the 500. Look at the detail in this freaking camera, man. I am just, this is 200%. You want to talk about pixel peeping? 200. And I haven't even cleaned it up. I mean, we're at a mere ISO 200, but I mean, just look at the background blown out. And then we did this little white guy here. There's just a sharpness around the eye. You can see, and this was handheld too, y'all. That's, you know, the whole lens, the whole configuration. I think I weighed everything and it was like 13 pounds. Let it load. Let's do 100%. Look at the details around the eyes. Now this was at f4, so we do have a lot of bokeh in here, so not everything is going to be in focus and super sharp. Now I did shoot this same thing again, if you remember, a second time at 5.6, and we have a lot more in focus. And this one here is just sharper. Now this is a 640 ISO. 640 still for the R5, it ain't nothing. I shoot 12,800 constantly at events with the R5. So let's go into the develop mode so we can kind of see what's going on here. This was the EF 70-200, right? And as you can see, super sharp lens. Some of the next pictures we took, this was our 5.6, the 70-200, right? We're shooting at f5.6 on the 70-200, and you can see everything is in focus. We even picked up one of the ladybugs right here. If you have an f2.8 lens and you shoot f2.8, you're not going to get the whole subject in focus because of the depth of field. Now, if I was to go over here to basic and just hit auto and bring that down just a little bit, that brings some of the color back that really should be in there. This is our 70-200 with the 2x tele. The 2x, look at this. Now we are still at 5.6, but I just wanted to show you that even with a 2x teleconverter, you still get a great image. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is, say you want to get into bird photography, you have a 70-200 laying around, you want to pick up a teleconverter. You don't need the brand new 3x. Now the version 3 teleconverter is supposed to be a lot sharper than the version 2, but even with the version 2 that I think I got for like $200, so I can take my existing $1,200 lens and throw a $200 teleconverter and almost get 400 millimeters, which is kind of like walking around with a 100-400. But all I'm spending is an extra $200, and that's what I wanted to show you by showing you this picture. And I'm gonna go over here and just hit auto and pull that back a little bit. But I want you to see, even with auto, just to bring some of the color and depth back to it. That's still a great picture, but you can see the bokeh is so good that the nose is kind of defocused because that's on a different focal plane. Not because the lens did a bad job, because the depth of field is just that great, which is a good thing because we can always stop down to like an f8 or f11 and the whole bear would be super sharp, which would also help out that teleconverter as well. The only problem that I did have with that 2x teleconverter is it does slow down the autofocus just a tad from not having one on. Now here we are at 240 again. Now this is the 1.4. The 1.4 doesn't add much, so, but if you wanted to add a 1.4, as you can see, we are still, I'm just going to hit auto, we are still sharp, y'all. Look at that. Moving on over here, now we are at the Canon EF 100-400 Mark II version 2. Beautiful lens. It is just as sharp, just right under the 100-500. The 1-5 is just a hair sharper. Beautiful, beautiful image. We're running an ISO 160. Not really much there. Let's go over here to the next image. And I think I bumped the arrow keys and that's why I turned that off. If you look over here, this is still the 1-4. Look how sharp the hairs are right here. Like I said, that's just a phenomenal, phenomenal image. Let's go back to our bear. Now this one we had already pulled up. This is 800 millimeters, okay? So this is basically the 1-4 with the 2x teleconverter. Look at that quality. Except for color noise and some chromatic aberrations, it looks pretty good. Same thing over here, but here's the problem. With this one, we lost some sharpness here. We lost a little detail. Now, I was shooting 5/100ths of a second at 800 millimeters, which could have been me not holding it still enough. I don't know. There's where teleconverters and the 800 f11s and lenses like that might give you a little issue, because hand holding at slower shutter speeds, you need to take some burst shots so you get that one keeper, not just soft ones. Moving on, we're still a little soft here. This is the 1:4 with the 2 times. And as you can see, it's pretty soft. It is pretty soft, I'll admit that. I wouldn't recommend just running around with it. So let's move on a little bit to the next lens here. EF 100-400 Mark II. You're just gonna get nothing but great images out of it with the 1.4 and solidly on its own. I would trust that lens everywhere. Now this is our Sigma. See the image? That's probably user error. I did shoot this at 5/100ths of a second, which is a little slower than what I like, but this is a stationary subject. So if a bird's on a tree limb and I'm normally shooting 2,000ths for bird in flight, 1/2,000ths of a second, I'm gonna go down to about 1/500ths of a second for stationary birds, because they might jerk and bebop. That's what they do. Birds, you know, they just twitch around. So that might be some user error there. But here's a better one. We can kind of see some sharpness in the hairs. And the Sigma 150-600 is a very trustworthy lens. Now here it is with the 1.4 teleconverter. This is just soft. The Sigma with the teleconverter, look how soft that is. I just wouldn't recommend it, even with a 1.4. So whatever you're using the Sigma 150-600, that lens quality, it's not up to Canon's quality. It's not Canon glass. So whatever you are shooting and it's not within that 600, put it on a crop sensor camera. If you have one, don't put teleconverters on that Sigma, because the image will get so dumbed down. But like I said, in a pinch, you know, you're not trying to get the sharpest image, you're trying to get composition maybe, but it's just not for me to recommend on that one. Here we are, 150-600, and as you can see, after looking at something like the 500 f4, the EF 100-400, the Sigma 150-600 really isn't holding up next to those lenses, but yet I've got some of my best images using that lens. I've got some of the sharpest images that I've ever taken using this lens. That's why I still love the Sigma 150-600. The reason why I don't run around with it is because I'm using the R7 and the R5 99.9% of the time when I shoot photography. And both of those cameras have its drawbacks with the Sigma. I would much rather run around with the RF that I've already saved up for. Or prior to that, when I couldn't afford the RF 100-500, I used the EF 100-400 Mark II, even with teleconverters, and I feel like the images were just a tad sharper. So in my opinion, if we add up cost, I paid close to $800 for the Sigma 150-600 contemporary, okay? I paid $1,000 for my used copy of the EF 100-400, and I paid $200 for my 1.4 teleconverter. So $1,200 versus $900, and that 100-400 is a $560 with that teleconverter, or with a crop sensor, you're a little bit higher than that. I would say that that's the better way to go than the Sigma. And that's what we're about to get into towards the end. We are now using the 800 f11 STM motor. So this lens, when you get it to work, it works well. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work well. All right, let's go over here. Where are we at? The f11, there's our bear. So right here, if you look at the bear, there is heavy chromatic aberrations right here. And in all fairness, the sun was coming in and just hitting hard contrast on top of the bear. So just to be fair right there. Moving on over here, this guy is pretty sharp down in here, but up here. For an f11, you would think it's sharper. I mean, look at the eye on this, right? And then look at the eye on this one, you know? This is our 500 right here. Here, this is where I have the bear, and you can see, you know, the contrast of the sun, the nature of the beast came in and just kind of got me there. Once again, this is the 500 f4 with the 2x teleconverter. I did not do it in the beginning, so I went ahead and redid it. And even with the 2x teleconverter, this is 100%, this is 200%. I mean, who the hell is going to go this big? Nobody better blow our images up like that. The sharpness looks great. It really does. This is with the 1.4, and this is with the 2x again. So you can see the 2x actually right here on the nose, it's sharp as hell. But you see this eye and this eye, they're both out of focus, so that tells me that that's our focal range. So let's go to where it was sharp. So this is where focus locked, right in here. And where the focus did lock, it looks pretty good, you know. The thing is, I needed to stop it down, I needed to tripod it, and it just wasn't the case. Like I said, this is just an overview so you guys can get a summary of what every lens is. Right here, everything looks great. The sun also wasn't hitting down, so there was a few moments where the sun popped through the clouds. It happened. So let's go through the list. What are my favorite lenses and why? Number one favorite lens in my collection would definitely be the 500 f4. The reason being is image sharpness and just beautiful blown out backgrounds this thing does. I mean, up against any other lens, this thing just blows the background out. That's why this is my number one lens as far as favorites go. The pros, everything about it. The cons, the weight. This thing is heavy. This with my camera, like I said, is well over, you know, it's close to 12, 13 pounds. It is a son of a bitch to carry around and hold up for periods of time. So that's the pros and cons of this one. So number two would be the RF 100 to 500 millimeter. This thing is just so fast and so sharp. I thought it was broken yesterday because it's so quiet. After using things like the Sigma 150 to 600 Contemporary, where you go boop, 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 you can feel the lens going back and forth. And then there's the focus breathing and all kinds of stuff with, you know, those lenses. We'll get into that in a minute. But this one, the pros are, it's lightweight, it's fun to shoot, it's super quiet, and it is sharp, 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 sharp. And you got the reach of 1 to 5, or I can just easily throw it on R7 and get, you know, almost a 2 to 800 millimeter. Great, great lens. And it still makes beautiful compression, giving me that bokeh. That's just, I love this lens. The cons, mine did not come with a tripod collar. B&H Photo did send me one after the fact, but I bought one with an Arca Swiss bottom, and it's a, you know, just great. It's from a company called iShoot. If you have any questions, just check out the company iShoot, and they make these beautiful, beautiful collars. But the cons of this lens, I really can't think of any, except for, you know, it does go to 7.1. I wish it capped off at 6.3, but you know what? I love it. Great job, Canon. Number 3 on this shootout, the third favorite lens. Oh, it's a tie. It's a tie between the 100 to 400 Mark II and the 70 to 200. These do two different things, but the 70 to 200 f2.8 for wildlife, no. If you're a bird photographer, no. If you're doing portraits and landscapes and wildlife in general, this is a great lens. But as a bird photographer's lens, not so much. With the 2x teleconverter, you can get away with getting that 400 millimeters, but you're losing a lot of image quality. You know, it's usable, but you know, for a bird photography, you want to be between about 5 and 800 millimeters realistically for birds, because you have to get close without invading their space and them flying off. the 1:4. What I love about this lens is you can shoot close up and you can kind of do some great beautiful flowers and butterflies and macro stuff with it, all the way to it's super fast, and it is under the 1:5 when it comes to sharpness. I would say the 1:5 is just a hair faster and a hair sharper. Also works phenomenal with a cheap EF 1.4 teleconverter, giving you 560 millimeters, thus beating the RF one. When you're comparing dollar for dollar, it will win that way. Does that make sense? Well, we got one more tie here, and I know you guys don't like ties, but 150 to 600 800 f11. Image quality and if I had these on a scale and I had to pick one and walk away, I would take the 150 to 600 any day of the week. The 800 f11 is just too far handicapped for me to just be a one lens that I could just run and gun with. It's just far too handicapped. You got 30 feet before you can take a picture. You've got, it is light though. It's great for video far away and things like that. The image isn't the sharpest. It is a sharp image, but it's not the sharpest as we've seen in the pictures. And I know the Sigma did fail us in the images today, but I have gotten some of the sharpest images I've ever gotten with this lens. So why is it at the bottom of the list? Because the autofocus with mirrorless cameras and this lens just don't work. Now, in all actuality, when the R5 came out, I spent a few weeks, I updated the firmware with the docking station with this. I bought the teleconverter. I don't like a teleconverter on this at all. 600 is just enough where you can get what you need. Nikon, Sony, they all did the 2 to 6. Canon came out and, you know, went ahead and did a 2 to 8, but there is that f9 there. But when you're in the 600 range for the price point, this thing's super sharp. It gets the job done. And even with something, you know, like an R6 or an R5, with the first focusing systems, not the R7 focusing system and not the R8 focusing system or the R6 Mark II. But if you're going back to the original R6 and R5, you can get this to play nice if you mess with the settings enough. And it will be a fast, fun lens that's affordable for you. If that's what you're looking for, is functionality and affordability. You will have to deal with some of that focus breathing though. Something like the RF 1:5, you're not going to get that hunting and focus breathing like you get with this. And that's why it got knocked down. Not because it's a terrible lens, but because it does have some hunting and focus breathing. The lenses we're looking at here today are, you know, at the top of the market when it comes to price range and functionality. And then you get into something like this. This is a novelty lens. It's more unique. This right here is perfect for trying to do some far away video and things like that. Apart from that, you know, and even catching a few far away shots, but you have to have good lighting. I guess for like Dwayne Patton and those guys that live in Australia, this might work out a little better than people like me that currently live in the backwoods of North Carolina, or for somebody that may live in the UK like in England. I know you guys over there got that gloomy weather, and I feel so bad for you guys that you don't get these beautiful sunrises and sunsets like we do. But this lens is by far, fortunately, Canon, it's at the bottom of my list. So, well guys, I hope things in this video help you along your path. Like I said, if you can, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm Dion here at Photo Beast, where we do all things photography. Remember, don't be ordinary, be extraordinary. Keep your finger on the triggers, and also help me to kick this YouTube algorithm right square in the ass. Go hit like, please share, subscribe. Also comment below on what is your favorite lens. I really want to know. And do you have a preference of everything I tried out here today? What are the results that you have? Just comment below, let's talk. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. See you in the next one.